Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fraud Fighters Live. I'm Richard Dufty. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Arcos Labs, and joining me today is a very special guest, Gary Hayslip, who is the CISO for SoftBank Investment Advisors and SoftBank Group International, and author. Gary, how are you doing today, mate?
It's Friday. I can't wait. Can't wait for the weekend.
Absolutely, it's a Friday. I know you're up in the Bay Area today, so probably some travel for you. It's summertime. I agree. What else can we ask for? Well, really glad to be catching up. It's been a while since we caught up at RSA, and that was even just pretty awesome. I think the first major event in quite a few years. So it was definitely great to see you up there. And were you surprised, actually, before we get into things, were you surprised at how busy and chaotic that was?
It was, I guess, 2 years of not having it. And then all of a sudden everybody's together. It was kind of like this big raucous kind of family get together. And it kind of surprised me a little bit. So I'm really looking forward to Black Hat because now I want to, really get together with everybody that I missed. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And walking around with you for a little bit at RSA was like walking around with my old man in his hometown where he's the mayor. And you're like the mayor of that event. I'm guessing Black Hat's going to be like that as well. So looking forward to seeing you and others out at Black Hat here coming up shortly. So, well, look, Gary, today we're going to be talking about CISO's role and how it's changing and what the kind of, I guess, near-term future looks like for CISOs and what that means to the overall security landscape. And we're touching on this when we met the first time. And, you've got an amazing background, and I know we're going to jump into that and talk about that in a little bit. But, I was just in London recently at another event, and that it was the topic as well. And it ended up running so far over time. And what I took away from it with the CISOs in the room over in London was it was impacting, this topic is impacting everybody. And it's been a fundamental and industry shift. So this is going to be a doozy. It's going to be a good one. But Gary, before we jump in, you've written several books. The one that stands out to me is the book that you wrote not for CISOs, but actually for their colleagues, CEOs, CFOs, board members. Tell us a little bit about that, the CISO Desk Reference Guide Executive Primer.
Yeah, it was my co-authors and I, we kind of consolidated it and put it together. As you mentioned, the role is changing. Many of us CISOs are kind of looking at the fact that we're more of now of a business executive that's using technology and process and people to manage risk. And but what I find is a lot of my peers don't really understand the role. They don't really understand what CISOs do or how we build teams or how we build security programs. And so we wrote this book for the CFO, for the CEO, for the board of directors that really help them understand what we do, and to better utilize us, to better work with us. So because we're partners. I look at the fact that, I'm a business partner and I'm here to go ahead and help protect my business and help them be able to, increase revenue and do new things and new services. But you kind of, at times you want to be able to hand them a user's guide and say, here, this is how you should work with me. And that's really what this book ended up being, was we kind of come up with this concept of a user's guide.
Yeah, I've been in this industry about 25 years, and I started with Symantec back in 2004. And when I think back to engaging with, working with, selling to CISOs, there wasn't CISOs right back then. It's a fundamental shift over the last decade or so. And so that sounds like a great book for others to be able to read. When you think about not just the book, but just the learnings that you've had, Gary, what are some concrete examples that, from a CEO or board members that you've spoken to after maybe they've read the book or you've sat down with them, that they think about engaging and building healthy relationships with a CISO today?
I think one of the things that we noticed, one of the changes was all of a sudden there's a concept of, okay, I'm not hiring somebody and then I'm done. security is complete. We're good to go. I've hired a CISO and I don't need to do anything anymore. Instead, it's an ongoing process. Oh, you're someone that's going to need continuous revenue. You're not just the fallacy used to be that, security was a cost center. It's kind of a sunk hole. You're going to throw a whole bunch of money into this hole and we're not getting any revenue. We're not getting anything out of it. The thing about it is that many of us CISOs now are showing that when security is done right, because security is so integrated into what's going on in dev, it's integrated in what sales and marketing it's doing, it's integrated in projects and stuff that we're doing with partners and how we're sharing data back and forth. And now with a lot of the new laws and regulations about data privacy, and you've got to have security updated. You've got to have it integrated in your current business, business operations and stuff you're doing today. So it isn't a one-off. It actually becomes a strategic process. It ends up becoming, and many businesses today, they use it as a differentiator. You're going ahead and you're going up for another round of funding, or you're going ahead and you want to be able to partner with someone. And one of the things they're looking at is how secure are you? How mature is your security program? Who are you? Who is your CISO? What have they built and put together? What framework are you following? Do you have a, it doesn't surprise me nowadays when they ask, can you send us your current SOC 2 letter? Or can you send us your current, assessments you've done? Have you had any breaches, and what were the result of those? It does. It becomes, to me, it's more now than just, hey, I just hired a CISO, so I don't have to do anything anymore.
It seems to me as well, when I just think back through my own observations and engagement with CISOs over the years, it felt in the past, even from a partnering perspective, as enterprise software providers, it felt it was more internally focused and internally centric. And now, you just touched on, when I think about even at Arcos and the CISOs that we are engaging with, it's not about internal security or just about internal security. We're working with them to protect the end users and growth. And how do they, how does a CISO, what the CISO's role is now in an organization around revenue optimization, getting to market quickly, making sure that the revenue that comes in the door doesn't fall out a leaky hole in the back of the boat. It's no longer just the, patching the endpoints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I have to admit, it's a wide-ranging. And I think that's the reason why I like the role, because it's such a wide-ranging field, and just the challenges, and then there's some new things that you get to go ahead and do. But being able to communicate that, being able to go ahead and speak to the C-suite so they understand that this isn't a one or two, like you said, this isn't a one or two thing. Hey, we're going to plug that leaking hole. You got to continually do it. And there might be better ways to do it to save us money, and actually, help the company.
And Gary, there's a lot of talk right now, if reading in the forums and talking to folks about decentralizing security in really large enterprise organizations. Can you describe for folks listening the changes that you're seeing in the CISO org right now, and any kind of, I guess, and where you believe the future is going that might, change things?
I know talking with my peers, especially those that are in the Fortune 100, where they've got large, extensive, security teams, you start seeing where a CISO may actually break up, teams to where you have business CISOs, and this just may be where you have a CISO for a specific business units. Right. So at least you do have somebody that's covering security, that's covering, and specific areas. And then you have more of a corporate or a strategic CISO over, the whole over the whole process. So you start kind of seeing where the teams are spread across the company, but you still need core people to go ahead and be able to manage, the program itself, and making sure that the company is protected. So, I'm starting to see a lot more of that, and companies are becoming comfortable with that, and then also the fact that, there's a strategic process now where a lot of CISOs are talking about just the technology that they use. is being more consolidated, and how they're building platforms when they're putting their stack together, to where
Right.
you may use less technologies, but you're generating more data, and you're integrating the data to give you a better picture, in real time, to be able to make decisions as well.
Yeah, it's definitely forever changing. And if there's anyone that has insights into that, it's you. I mean, your background. I remember when we first met, and what's the first thing we all do when we meet someone now, or we're going to meet them? We go on LinkedIn. I was scrolling for like 5 minutes by the time I got to the beginning. I mean, Gary, you both advised and worked at a very wide range of industry, from obviously spending a lot of time with the U.S. Navy, all the way through to cities and state governments, boards, advising, private sector, and now obviously in a really critical role for the last few years with SoftBank there. As you kind of think about now, and you talk to a lot of your peers. What's the top business issues right now? If there are other CISOs listening to this, what do you think there probably is that common thread that they're waking up thinking about and going to bed at night thinking about?
Um, it's kind of funny, because I was at a dinner with CISOs last night,
All right.
here in the Bay Area, and some of the biggest discussions we had was, one, how can you help, the company,
Yeah.
escalate and grow its business, but being able to do it securely. And so again, it's becoming a business partner. A lot of discussion about data, about the protection of data, not just because, and you would think because of the ransomware attacks and the stuff we're seeing, that'd be normal, but a lot of it was also because companies they're scaling quickly, they're moving in the cloud, a lot of movement to where the cloud, and they're hybrid. How do you protect data, the movement of data, partnering, now with numerous companies worldwide, and there's new types of privacy regulations. And how do you get a handle on that? Who do you partner with inside the company to understand what those regulations are, and to make sure that you're actually meeting them, so that the company itself doesn't get held liable for missing the management
Yeah.
of customer data. So it's I have to admit, I mean, I look at it as an exciting time right now.
Yep.
For those of us in this field.
What's your advice? There's maybe someone listening that aspires to be a CISO, or is a new CISO, that could benefit, would probably love to sit down with you and have a coffee. In lieu of that chance of having a coffee with Gary Hayslip, what's your advice to that aspiring or new CISO right now, who might be, head spinning type of thing?
I think the big thing is the role itself. It isn't something that you come right out of school and you do. You have to spend. It takes time. It's the reason why companies, when they're looking for a CISO, they usually look 8 to 10 years of experience. That's 8 to 10 years of experience. When you look at that 8 to 10 years, that's 8 to 10 years where you were an analyst, and then you were an engineer, and then you were a security architect. You've got to put your time in. You've got to go ahead and and then once you are an engineer or an architect, within a security team, you've got to volunteer for the run, projects, the manage a team. You've got to get that leadership experience under your belt, and to go ahead and start building up what you're going to need if you want to be a CISO. Because when you're a CISO, now all of a sudden you've got the whole company, that you're responsible for, and sometimes you're being held accountable for things that you don't fully control, and to get that kind of experience, to understand how to deal with those types of challenges, it takes time, and you've got to be willing to step out of, sitting at a desk, or, being comfortable, and go ahead and accept challenges, go ahead and sometimes it may require you to move from company to company, from role to role. You're going to have to mature, to the point to where you're ready, for the next step to be an executive.
It's phenomenal advice, Gary. I'm sure everyone appreciates that. We do try to keep these to a crisp 15 minutes. So, Gary, I want to thank you for spending some time with us. Before we let you go, though, new book out on privacy. Now, it feels like that's another whole 15 minutes we could spend. But can you maybe just share just the kind of the high level premise of that, and give folks a sneak peek into what they might get out of that?
Yeah, like I said, myself and Bill Bonney and Matt Stamper, we actually formed a company. The CISO Desk Reference Guide is actually a publishing house, and we've written about 6 or 7 books together. And the most recent one that was published, actually, Matt Stamper and and 2 new authors that we brought in for this project, they just published a book on data privacy this last Monday, just a couple of days ago.
Oh, wow.
It's it's available in ebook and in paperback and hardback on Amazon, and we walk you through not just understanding the new rules and regulations dealing with privacy, but how to build privacy teams, how to build privacy into your dev teams, how to build privacy into your security teams or processes at work. It really helps you understand the importance of data privacy today, and especially with a lot of the new laws and stuff coming out. It's really critical.
Sure. Well, and I heard you mention Bill Bonney. I'm assuming that's Bill from up at T-Mobile, who had an incredible run there at T-Mobile. Is that the same Bill Bonney or different Bill Bonney?
No, it's Bill Bonney from Intuit.
Oh,
different Bill Bonney.
Awesome. Well, look, I know there's a lot of events coming up where folks can meet you. I know we're hosting some amazing helicopter rides around Black Hat at night on the 10th of August. And I know we've also got a great joint webinar coming up on August 24th for the CISO community with Arcos Labs. That's always very well attended. When you have guests like Gary Hayslip and you have beautiful wines like Cake Bread Cellars, it's a pretty hard invite to turn down. But Gary, thanks so much again for joining us. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
Awesome. And I said, look forward to seeing everybody at Black Hat.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary.
Mm-hmm.